Welcome to UpYourStack podcast. I'm your host, Noah Berk. I'm also one of the co-founders of OBO, an elite HubSpot solutions partner. And UpYourStack, we talk to our favorite HubSpot app partners who've either built their apps on HubSpot or have integrated with HubSpot to help you get the most out of your HubSpot tech stack. And I have a very special guest today who I am super excited to talk to, probably one of the original OGs in the HubSpot app community, Dan, who started OrgChartHub. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us on.
Dan, let's just dive right into it. You're one of the originals. You probably created one of the very first apps that were really built on, integrated with HubSpot. What does OrgChartHub do?
I'll maybe go to our origin story because that
Perfect.
maybe give you some clues on why we did what we did. So I run OrgChartHub with my co-founder, Austin. Austin is the properly smart person in the team. So what happened was we worked for another software company. This is me and Austin. I was one of the first sales hire in that software company, and he's one of the first engineers. So naturally, we got to build a good relationship with each other, and it helped that business build up to a significant size. During that time, we were very early on the HubSpot CRM, like literally a sidekick came out, we were using it, and then it became the CRM. So there were some key pieces that were missing for us in order for primarily me to do my role. So I progressed from their first sales hire to becoming like their head of account management. It was like a hybrid between customer success and still in sales because we were in charge of expansion as well. We were selling to large enterprises. The reason for OrgChartHub was because I was getting my team to map out the key decision makers as we were winning deals and then as we were trying to expand deals. And no, I took a look on your LinkedIn. I know you've got some enterprise sales background, so I'll be intrigued to hear what you say after this. So there's a lot of key decision makers in an enterprise deal. Now, we were mapping out decision makers on PowerPoint, spreadsheet, digital whiteboards that were outside of HubSpot. And so me and Austin would naturally meet every now and then when we had spare time. And I'd mention this problem to him and he's like, oh, okay. And we went away and created a very crude version of OrgChartHub back in 2017. And then so in essence, what happened next was we were like, okay, well, let's see if other HubSpot customers and partners are interested in using this. So we put it on the HubSpot app marketplace in 2018. And fortunately for us, it was pretty popular pretty quick. And we became HubSpot certified app partners in that 2018. And then went full-time in 2019. So yeah, maybe a slightly long story there, but hopefully
I
it gives you a good
remember the
background.
early days. I remember the app out there. It was when you guys first came out, there was only a few. And it's such a powerful solution for organizations who are trying to sell, across enterprises. To your point, who is everyone? Who reports to whom? Who works with whom? And, it's something that your app really fills in that gap. And I think a lot of people don't even realize they know they need it, even though they need it to do their job better. So how have you been able to gain traction? Like, what's been your success to gain traction in this marketplace?
Yeah, so the key thing that we did very early on is we tried to mirror the way people buy HubSpot. And now that has changed a little bit over time, and I think it's going to change a little bit going forward. But so that if you think back to 2018, there's always been a strong free plan, but they were pushing that very heavily. So we mirrored that. So we've always had a very generous free plan to help people get going. And then from there, people have converted. So I think understanding how HubSpot customers purchase and allowing people to get access and pretty much full access from the word goes has been a real product-led growth motion for us. And that's worked for OrgChartHub, but it's also worked for our second application that we released in 2020, which is GeoMapper. So we've mirrored the go-to-market on both of them.
And talk to me a little bit more about GeoMapper. I'm sure a lot of people, and actually in the HubSpot app marketplace, they both have similar traction at this point. And I know we started with OrgChartHub, but tell me more about GeoMapper and how that benefits clients.
Yeah, so same story to some extent. So you might be able to tell from my accent. We're based in the UK. Again, working for that company, I was flying over to the US where most of our customers were. It felt like every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I remember our CEO at the time, I would often go over with him to go and see customers and prospects. And before one trip, he said, "Where are our customers?" That's
Pretty
quite
sure everyone says that, asks that question. Where are our customers? I would like to know myself.
that's quite hard to remember their addresses in your head. And even like on a list, I know like you can see it on a list, but it's very different when you actually get it on a map. So again, created an early version like internal tool, which basically mapped out our customers, our prospects, and then we drilled it down a little bit to like the different types of customers. And the primary use case was to help us with those business trips. And that is a lot of what our customers do today. But it also actually helps the marketing team quite heavily as well. So it's a very, just like OrgChartHub, there's a very tight integration back and forth. And you can push contacts back into HubSpot as a list and companies back as a list based on unique geographical areas. So that's helps in marketing, but it also helps in sales from a targeting perspective as well.
I would love to hear. I'm sure you have a lot of success stories. What are you hearing from clients? Like, what are they saying? Wow, these tools have really helped us do X, Y, Z. What are you hearing most from them these days?
Yeah, on OrgChartHub, it always makes us smile if it's helped them close out a big deal, like it's increased the pace at which they've closed it, or it's actually highlighted some areas that they were just completely missing. Our very best fit customers on OrgChartHub, what they end up tending to do is they get their sales development team to start to use the product at the prospecting stage. Then it hands off to the AE usually to actually then work on the deal. And then the AE hands over to the CS, and then the CS carries on working on it because you've got expansion. You've also got to figure out who's going to renew this deal next year. Is it the same people? I think that's where we feel most proud on OrgChartHub, in that it's not just the initial win, it's like all the way through the journey.
It's kind of following the whole flywheel concept that HubSpot has been pushing for years, where marketing supports sales, sales supports service, service supports marketing. It just kind of goes all around the circle. And essentially with your application and your tool, they're able to get visibility into these organizations that is more powerful than just simply seeing a list of names.
Yeah, and they're adding extra like context onto the org chart as well. So you've got buying roles there's a two-way sync, pushing that backwards and forwards with HubSpot and keeping it all updated. There's relationship lines that you can tie in between and add notes on like why are those relationships important. You can put on partners, because often there's external partners that are playing an influence on a particular deal, and make sure they're mapped and associated. So there's a lot of extra context you get in like deal reviews, in customer success reviews, like quarterly reviews, that is like, say, hard to get from a list. We also layer on activity. It's a bit unique. We use like a heat map. So we show you who you're speaking to, and more crucially, who you're not speaking to. That's the key part. So it kind of lights up the areas of who you're speaking to, and you can flip between sales and marketing. So you can see sales activity, but you can also see marketing activity. So really helping with that ABM side, because ultimately it comes down to like the buying group on who's going to make a decision. So the marketing side is just as important as well.
This, in a sense, like, is it normally the sales operations person coming to you? Is it a sales leader coming to you, or is it just a rep inside the organization? It's like, I need this.
Yeah, it's normally a sales leader. So like the rev ops has like started to increase in terms of that role. Sales enablement, if it's a slightly larger company, or sales operations, the best to like explore options in that particular area. And then sometimes it's the head of CS who's thinking about it from a big account structure standpoint. That's generally where it comes from. Maybe through the design of HubSpot and connecting apps as well. Like it has to be a HubSpot admin that connects apps, as you right know. So there has to be an internal conversation of some description. So it may come from a rep and go up and then back to whoever the admin is. But yeah, that's predominantly who gets in touch.
Well, there's over 205,000 companies using HubSpot right now, and you're in that sweet spot of the B2B, I would say, buying cycle area. You had talked about earlier, you have a freemium versus paid. What are the differences between the two, and when does someone generally go to the paid version?
Yeah, so if I talk specifically on OrgChartHub, we allow teams to map out 5 companies. So that'll be it could be across the company, so everybody has access, and they're mapping out 5 individual companies, so all the key decision makers in those particular companies. At that point, when you need to go beyond 5, then it becomes like the paid plans, and we keep it really simple. We purely based on the number of org charts and the number of companies you're building on. And that's directly linked to how many target accounts you've got generally, like how many key accounts and how many target accounts do you have? And then usually that's how our customers come up with where they sit on the plan side. We also have a bit of extra functionality called account mapping. Now that works with HubSpot's parent-child structures.
Yes.
So as you'll know, like when you work with a very big company, there's lots of entities all connected to each other. And what a lot of our customers are trying to do is they're operating like in a land and expand model. So they're going to win a part of the business, but they know they need to work across it. So that is a two-way sync. So as soon as that's turned on, it will automatically build out the structure visually, but you can adjust it in OrgChartHub and it will adjust inside of HubSpot. And then we also layer on deals on top of that. So you can see how the deals are rolling up to the parent company and really help you figure out where are the gaps where we haven't done anything yet and how big can this account be for us, like flipping between open and one and managing it that way.
And do you notice that companies prior to using you, like, is it pretty easy to justify, from an ROI standpoint, like using OrgChartHub? I mean, listen, it makes sense. Like if I don't have visibility into my accounts, my deal cycles are slower. My close rate is probably lower. You're probably getting less money because you don't have the right people in the room. Like, are people saying, wow, this is like opened up a world?
Yeah, I think where it's most impactful when teams start to use it is in that deal review situation where previously, so let's like use an example where previously they were using PowerPoint, which is like majority. They're not seeing any of the connection to HubSpot. So they're not seeing like, okay, well, here's the sales activity and where are the gaps, or on the account mapping, they're not seeing, okay, well, I can see how the deals are connected here and where are the gaps. That's the light bulb moment is when they generally, when someone first flicks on the activity heat map on the org chart level, they're like, I get why this needs to be inside of a CRM because the data is there. It shouldn't sit somewhere else. So yeah, that's usually like the key when they're like, okay, this makes sense. We need to adopt this.
And are you seeing more adoption, especially as HubSpot's continue to go up market in the ecosystem, larger organizations, larger sales teams, larger sales? Like, are you seeing an acceleration right now in the adoption?
Yeah, and I don't mean this to be disparaging to like the old time, but when the companies get bigger, they generally have more process in place. So like a good example is like quite a mature company that's larger in headcount and quite got a decent sized sales team. They generally have a sales methodology they are following. And so like ones that we see regularly,
like, they're following Medic. And for those who are listening, if you don't know Medic, it's a very popular way of selling enterprises, metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, implications of the pain, champion competition. You can also have Medic P, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. And and Miller Hyman is another one, like a bit older, but still we see used a lot. And that one and Miller Hyman, the buying group is a key part of like, you need to understand who the buying group are, otherwise you're not going to close that deal out. So yeah, we're definitely seeing like just a difference in, I don't know whether this is the right word, but professionalism as the companies go and get bigger and bigger. So that's kind of the key difference. And also bigger companies generally are used to purchasing applications on other CRMs. It's not weird for them to do that. So yeah, it is changing for sure.
What about the traction in GeoMapper? Like, what are you seeing there? What types of organizations are generally purchasing GeoMapper are you seeing in the marketplace?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because of where it's come from. I guess like me and Austin assumed there'd be quite a lot of crossover. And there is a little bit of crossover, but not quite as much as maybe we thought there would be. So GeoMapper has a more broad range of customers. I guess because like mapping is important in quite a lot of different businesses in a different way. OrgChartHub is quite specific to if you sell to the enterprise, then it's going to be right for you. For GeoMapper, we've got some B2C customers that will map out contacts, and then the important thing for them is they'll want to plan events around where their best customers are.
Use case.
Yeah, not one that we really envisaged when we started with it. But then, yeah, from a B2B perspective, which is the majority of the customers on GeoMapper, they're thinking about it from the business travel point, which I mentioned earlier, but also a little bit on the event side. So like, are they going to a trade show, and can we draw around the area where we can invite people that are local to that trade show and make the most of it? And then also just referencing is a big part. Like, if you can jump into GeoMapper and you can go, okay, there's a customer right next to you. Next time I go on that call, I'll be mentioning them.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a pretty cool use case, especially for outside sales teams. If you need to be able to figure out where your customers are, or if you're flying to a particular area to meet with one customer, can we identify the other customers in the marketplace? I mean, I know that from personal experience in being in enterprise sales for most of my career. We would have to do that all the time, and I literally have to go on Google Maps. Like, all right, who's nearby? We pull that information in. It'd be nice to have a tool like GeoMapper in those particular scenarios. As you've been building this application, this tool, what are some of the really cool learning experiences you've had, whether the actual going through building the apps, or just in your own general experience of just building a company?
Yeah, good question. So I think, when we set out, because we were HubSpot customers and we were specifically solving a problem for HubSpot. Now, a lot of people might see that as a downside, in that like you're all in on one platform and there's a bit of risk there. I think the thing that surprised us was back in 2018, we didn't know anybody at HubSpot. Like, we were just HubSpot customers, built one app at that point, and we didn't know anyone. And roll around to 2019, and we were invited to go to the HubSpot App Partner Day, which was quite small back then. There wasn't a lot of people there. I think there was maybe like 100 companies there. Wow. And we got to meet Dharmesh and we got to meet Brian. And I think that really surprised us, that we're flying over from the UK, little 2-man team, and they were willing, like they wanted to speak to us and they wanted to learn about like what we were going to do next. At that time, we were like, this is a side hustle. We want to go full time. We were asking them for advice. So I think like that has surprised us just over and over again, like how open to partners HubSpot have been, and that over time has just got deeper and deeper. Like the product team have been incredible. The app partner team have been, again, incredible over a long period of time for us. So yeah, I think that was probably our biggest surprise, just because you, as just a user, you have a view of HubSpot of how big they are, and they are big.
Yes,
and they have got bigger.
They are. They're pretty huge now, especially, and they were big back in 2019 as well.
Yeah, but they are very sociable people, and they're very friendly people, and the culture, you feel it over and over again, like with everyone you speak to there. So I think that was maybe a very, very pleasant surprise, and it's why we've stayed fully focused on HubSpot, because we, like in 2019, we're like, okay, they're committed to like getting more people to build on HubSpot. We're going to commit, and because there's been open dialogue constantly, we know like where we sit, and we know what we need to do next to some extent, in just what next APIs are coming out and what the direction they're going in. So yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for maybe companies out there, a similar position as yourself? Maybe they're users at a company who uses HubSpot, to how to build apps on HubSpot?
Yeah, I think maybe going to that point about like why we built the two the way we did. I think hopefully you're already a customer. So if you're going to build on HubSpot, it's great if you're already a customer, because you've got some big advantages of you already think like a customer, and you know,
100%.
Like they know what to build basically. And like mirroring that go-to-market, I think has paid off for quite a few people now. I think like you can see it does work. The other big one is, like for us, we've spent a lot of time in the HubSpot community. I mean, like the community forums, solving, like not just blasting ourselves in there, but like talking about other problems that are tangentially linked to like selling to big businesses or business travel and all the rest of it. And so over time, I've become a HubSpot champion within that community. And I think embedding yourself in that way is a good way as well to just be genuine. Like, and that's what we've always tried to be, is like, we were HubSpot customers first, still HubSpot customers today. We're trying to use HubSpot just like you. And like, these are the reasons why we've created these solutions.
So contributing to the community has been a big part of your
Yeah.
success. So especially if you're going to look, I mean, listen, it's great advice. You see a problem because you're using the product and you want to solve that problem for yourself. It was what you guys did is you had a problem. You said, I want to be able to solve this in a way that works for me. And generally those are the best products if you think about what's going to work well for you. So I think that's excellent advice. And then when it comes to your products, and this is probably one of the most common questions we get, whether we're helping our clients pick HubSpot, implement HubSpot, get HubSpot set up, is what about AI? How is AI fit into all of this? How's AI going to fit into OrgChartHub or the mapping tool?
Yeah, so on OrgChartHub, we jumped on this pretty quickly and somewhat inspired by like some of the early work Dharmesh was doing. So we basically, before Inbound last year, we worked very hard on the ability to build org charts automatically using AI. So we use OpenAI, hook into it.
Mm-hmm.
All we're looking at is the job title. So we're not like we never suck out like names of contacts, or we use the HubSpot IDs, which is not sensitive. And then we use the job title to basically infer like this is the way the org chart should work. And then you can adjust that accordingly if it's not quite right. And that went down very well when we released it last year, because prior to that, teams were just assembling it by hand and putting down the key decision makers, which was fine, but this gives them a good head start in terms of who they've got. We have something out on beta right now with a group of customers, which is a slightly advanced version of that, where our very best customers, they know who their key decision makers are. Like,
yeah.
Going into a deal, they know who the key roles are and they know who they need to get on board. And so what we've created for them is something we're calling like buying group blueprints, where they can create a blueprint of all those key decision makers.
Interesting.
And what happens next is like they've got these different type, what we're seeing earlier, like they've got the different types of blueprints for different types of customers. The sales rep selects the right blueprint. It will auto fill with against those job titles, and then it will make suggestions where there are like gaps where maybe it's not exactly the right fit, but we want to check obviously with the sales rep. So yeah, we've certainly embraced it, and we continue to push that.
That's pretty awesome. And you know, I always love asking this question, but what's been one of your most embarrassing customer experiences so far?
Yeah, so I did a video way back in, it was 2016 or 2017, where it was basically, it was nothing to do with OrgChartHub, but it was like, how do we do our renewal process? And this was inside the last company. So I did like in essence, like, I think it was before Loon. So I did like a screen recording and then put myself on the video.
Early days.
Yeah. And I don't know why, but I thought it would be funny to stand outside Buckingham Palace and basically imply that I had just walked out of a meeting with the Queen, and he'd referenced some of the work that we'd been doing with her. And then I proceeded to show what we were doing in the renewals pipeline. And what I didn't envisage is some people, mainly in the States, genuinely believed that I had just met the Queen and that I knew the Queen.
And you should have kept going with that whole story.
I know. And that continues today. It's an older video now, so it doesn't pop up that often, but some people do still ask me that question.
Listen, for the guests out there, we're going to try and find that video of it sitting out there if it's okay with you, Dan, just so people can reference. This is what marketing really is all about. You know, as long as you get to the Queen, you can sell. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And what are some of your top three? What would you say are some of your favorite apps in the HubSpot marketplace now?
Yeah, so I'm going to be biased on this in terms of I really like the businesses that are solely built for HubSpot. Like there are some amazing apps, but I think using the word HubSpot app is maybe not doing some of those justice. Like there's integrations and there's some big software companies that have to integrate with HubSpot. But there are a number of people that are building solely for HubSpot, and in that group is growing, I think, probably every month now, which is great. So like you got the team like Supered, Arrows, Happily, who've got a number of apps that are great. And then a team that got in touch with us recently that are doing really well, and they've just got going like in the last 2-3 months, is Koalify, and they do deduplication within HubSpot and solely built it for HubSpot.
It's great. I mean, it's just, as people watch this show, learning what apps you like, what other companies, it's just great to be able to share that information. And, I'll kind of finish it up by asking, what do you like most about HubSpot these days?
The pace at which they are, one, putting out product as like a HubSpot customer, it's ridiculous how fast it's moving and improving. And then the other one from like a partner perspective, an app partner perspective, is there's APIs coming out now, which we have been longing for 3 years, that are now being delivered, which makes things so much better for us in terms of building the right app, but ultimately better for the customer because it's more consistent for them. And so, yeah, we've seen some massive improvements specifically on GeoMapper due to a new access to a brand new API. Well, an API that's we've now got access to. There's another one just come out that we can see how that can be used on both apps. So yeah, it's exciting times. Karen Ing's doing some great work, and her team, and Scott Brink has always done great work, but it's exciting to see the product sides and API side get better and better.
Agreed. Dan, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was awesome. And I really hope that everyone who's listening today was able to take something away. Go check out the apps again. Again, we got OrgChartHub, and the other one, again, is GeoMapper, to be able to check out both those apps. Again, I'm your host, Noah Berk with UpYourStack, and again, a co-founder of OBO, an elite HubSpot solution partner. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening, and best of luck. Thanks.